Greetings and welcome to the Superb Diamond Range Show. This is your host Superb, broadcasting from Edinburgh, and this is going to be classic video game music part 2, following on from the previous episode, episode 40, where we played music from some of my favourite games of all time, including the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog and Street Fighter 2. So primarily in this podcast, I'm going to be playing a couple of tracks from Streets of Rage, the likes of Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, but the majority is actually going to be from my favourite game of all time, Final Fantasy VII, which is a sort of epic Japanese RPG that's in the process of being remade. So there's a lot of hype at the moment about that. But I just want to kind of go back and listen to the music, and, you know, people that would have played the game back in the day or even up until today will realise that, you know, not only is the game timeless, but the music's timeless as well. So I'm going to be playing quite a few different songs from Final Fantasy VII, and potentially if I do a part 3, I may be doing some music from Final Fantasy X as well. But for now, I'll just introduce what I'm going to be doing first. So ultimately, in the previous episode, there was a bit of comparison. I did a comparison between the arcade Tetris, the Game Boy Tetris. I did a comparison with Double Dragon on the Nintendo versus the Game Boy. I actually came across a video on YouTube that got me thinking a lot about game music and, you know, how it sounds, and different versions of games that, you know, have different music or different sounding music. And I came across a guy on YouTube by the name of Aaron Mavrenak, sorry, hope I got that right. And he made a video comparison of the music from Final Fantasy VII on the PC version versus the original PlayStation 1 music. And I was blown away by the difference in the quality of the original PlayStation 1 music. So what I've decided to do is I want to share it with you, this music comparison that, as I say, Aaron Mavrenak has created. It's very eye-opening. It made me think a lot because I had the original PC version of Final Fantasy VII for a long time. And then when I kind of got rid of my PC, I must have got rid of it at some point, and I bought it again on the PlayStation 4. And I realized that the PlayStation 4 version was the PC version, which has the less superior music to the original PlayStation 1. Anyway, I'm going to play it for you just now, and it just sort of compares a few short tunes from Final Fantasy VII, but I'm sure you'll go away thinking that it's pretty unique, and big difference between the original music versus the PC music. So anyway, here it is. and I've also put a link towards Aaron Maverick's YouTube channel, just so that you can check out this video or more of his work, which again I'm really appreciative of for waking me up to that fact. The next music I'm going to be playing is a game called Streets of Rage, which is a scrolling beat 'em up, released quite a while ago on originally the Mega Drive or Sega Genesis in America. But the Streets of Rage was a fantastic game. The music for its time was amazing, but I still believe it holds up to this day. So you're going to be hearing, intro music to Streets of Rage 1, a character select screen, and the first stage, and it's got game play sounds in it, which kind of adds to it a bit. So I'll let you listen to Streets of Rage 1. Hope you enjoy. some music, eh? Okay, so now I'm going to be playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Again, this will be the intro music and first stage. You may actually hear the intro music to the PlayStation 1, which, you know, if you've played PlayStation 1 quite a few times, you'll be quite fond of that intro. But here is Castlevania Symphony of the Night, one of my favourite games. Really, really great. Just to mention that, again, similar story to the PC being different to original versions of games. So on the PlayStation, they had re-released Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and I believe it was coming out onto the PlayStation 4, and they had taken out a lot of the lines that were in it. People that are familiar with the game will know what I'm talking about, but this is actually the original PlayStation 1, I believe, version. So you hear the original speech that was made, which, you know, is pretty controversial, taking it out because it was so great. But anyway, here's Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world.
It was not by my hand that I'm once again given flesh. I was called here by humans who wish to pay me tribute.
Tribute? You steal men's souls and make them your slaves.
Perhaps the same could be said of all religions.
Your words are as empty as your soul. Mankind ill needs a savior such as you.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about you?
Okay, so I'm going to be playing some Final Fantasy VII music now. We're going to start off with The Secret of the Deep Sea, one of my all-time faves. You hear this music quite a bit when you're underwater. Here we go. And now for Red 13's music of Cosmo Canyon, of his home. Again, this is an amazing little tune, very catchy, and just absolutely love it. Here we go, Cosmo Canyon. There we go. That was great. Now here's one of my favourite themes in Final Fantasy VII. It's the theme of the character Cid, the pilot. So I actually think this is a very, motivational theme, I guess, but always really liked it. So here is Cid's theme. And here's a track called Hurry, which I've always really liked. Just for the record, I have the soundtrack for Final Fantasy VII, and I can listen to it whilst playing the game. I can listen to it in the car while I'm driving. But anyway, here's Hurry. It's a great song. And here's a track called Countdown, which is another little great track. Here we go for Countdown. And here's a track known as Fort Condor. Again, another gem of a track. Anybody playing Final Fantasy VII for the first time will remember the gold saucer, possibly the first time you ever arrive at it, and the music playing and the lights and it's like a sort of theme park, but it's really magical. And, anytime I go back to the gold saucer, if I revisit the game, just fond memories, and it always kind of takes me back to when I was playing it as a child. Really big fan of Gold Saucer, and there's so much to do there. It's almost like you could spend hours in the place going through all the different games and chocobo racing, and it's just fantastic. But yeah, big fan of the Gold Saucer. So here's the music of the Gold Saucer. Great music, by the way. Now, the next song is what's known as Birth of a God, which I believe is one of the final bosses, one of the final bosses that you meet. I remember reading the title of the song, Birth of a God, and I remember thinking, wow, what a name for a song. And then obviously, not only do you see it as a good name, but the track backs up the name, which doesn't happen very often. But yeah, Birth of a God is a absolutely brilliant track. So here you go. Here's Birth of a God. Now, the next one I'm going to play is another theme. So I mentioned earlier that I liked the Cid's theme. Another one that I really like is Aerith's theme. Now, I don't want to get into any spoilers just for people that haven't played Final Fantasy VII. I don't want to bring anybody to tears or anything. But I remember listening to Aerith's theme for the first time, and, you know, playing video games, again, you just didn't really expect to hear music at this kind of level. And this was like very emotionally charged. It was epic, I guess. It kind of had so much going on in it. I mean, it was like very well composed composition. It just has all the ingredients of greatness. And it's, you know, quite sad as well, but also uplifting. Probably Aerith's theme's like legendary in the Final Fantasy world. So please do check out and enjoy this song. Now, what way to finish a Final Fantasy VII music playlist, I guess, than the final song in the game. Now, I remember the first time I was struggling to beat the boss previous to the final Sephiroth boss. And I remember, battling away just to get to the final boss. And when I eventually got there, I wanted to take a picture of how good it looked. And I took this picture really quickly. And the next thing I knew, I was already dead. And it was because I was so taken back by the music that was being played, which took me a while for the penny to drop how good the music was. But just the way that the background looked in the game. So it's basically you've got your 3 characters that you've chosen. Usually Cloud's there, could be Tifa and Barrett or one of the other guys. But basically you've got what's known as the one-winged angel of Sephiroth, who's sort of above you. And the music goes so well because there's a move that Sephiroth does where he kind of like blows up the planets around the universe. And again, with the music combined with the visual, this is just epic. This is as good as it gets. And bearing in mind when this game came out, it is really ahead of its time. And probably one of the best final bosses or final stage of any game I've ever played. And even the music, I just think it's absolutely classic, unbelievable. So anyway, we're gonna finish this on this track, and what I'll do is I'll just say my adios just now. But once again, I want you all to thank you all for listening to Superb Diamond Range. And please leave a comment if you like it. Leave a review at Apple, iTunes as well, or on YouTube even. Appreciate your time. And here is the final track, The One-Winged Angel, from the greatest game of all time, in my opinion, Final Fantasy VII. Here we go.